Sister refused to let me meet her fiancé and told me it was best if I stayed away from the wedding. So I followed her secretly one day to uncover what she was hiding. When I finally saw his face, my heart nearly stopped, because he was. Chapter 1. I shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't have followed her. But something inside me told me I had no choice. I remember clutching the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt, watching the back of her car disappear into the traffic, my sister's taillights flashing like a warning. She didn't know I was behind her. She thought she had successfully kept me away, locked out, shut down. But I wasn't about to sit home one more night with questions chewing holes through my stomach. I had to see for myself. You see, when someone you love tells you point-blank that you don't belong in their life's biggest moment, her wedding no less, you start to wonder. You ask yourself, what is so shameful, so dangerous, so damaging that your own sister would rather erase you from the picture than let you stand by her side? That thought haunted me for weeks. And that night, as I trailed her through the rain-slicked streets, my windshield wipers beating like a frantic pulse, I knew something was about to snap. Because she wasn't just hiding her fiancé from me. She was hiding the truth. And when the truth finally revealed itself, when I finally saw the man's face, my breath caught in my throat like glass. It wasn't just a shock. It was a wound. A deep, unforgettable wound that made my knees buckle, my chest tighten, my heart nearly stop. I'll never forget that moment. The way the street lamp lit his features, clear as daylight. The way my whole world tilted sideways in an instant. I should have screamed. I should have cried. Instead I froze. I stood there, my voice locked inside me, knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. Now, before I take you deeper into what I saw and why it tore my world apart, let me ask you this. Have you ever been shut out by someone you thought loved you the most? Have you ever felt like a ghost at your own family table, watching secrets stack up like bricks in a wall, keeping you out? Because if you have, then you'll understand why I couldn't just let this go. And if you've never experienced that, if your family has always been open, warm, honest, then I want you to hold on to that tightly. Because betrayal, when it comes from your own blood, cuts deeper than anything else. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. I'll wait a second while you type that in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too, because this story, trust me, you don't want to miss how it ends. Now let me rewind a little so you can understand how we got here. My name is Marissa. I'm 28 years old. Born and raised in a small town outside of Richmond, Virginia. My sister Helena is 2 years older than me. Growing up, we weren't just siblings, we were inseparable. We shared a room, we whispered secrets under the covers. We even had our own made-up language. People used to call us the twins even though we weren't. That's how close we were. So imagine my shock when months ago, Helena told me she was engaged. And I hadn't even known she was dating anyone. Not a single word, not a single mention. And when I asked the obvious questions. Who is he? How did you meet? Can I meet him? She brushed me off like I was some stranger. It's complicated, Marissa, she said one night over the phone, her voice tight. You just need to trust me. It's better if you don't come to the wedding. Better if I don't come. That line looped in my head like a broken record. First I thought maybe I'd done something wrong. Maybe I'd offended her, maybe I wasn't supportive enough. But no matter how much I racked my brain, I couldn't find a reason. And the more I pushed for answers, the harder she pulled away. Weeks passed, and suddenly invitations went out to everyone in the family. Everyone but me. I found out through our cousin that Helena had even told relatives I was too busy with work to attend. Too busy. She'd stolen my voice and written me out of my own family story. So I started digging. I scrolled through her social media, but there was nothing. No pictures, no tags, no clues. It was as if her fiancé didn't exist. She was careful, too careful. That's when the suspicion started to burn in my chest. Something wasn't right. And then came the night that changed everything. Helena had told Mom she couldn't make family dinner because she and her fiancé had plans. My gut told me this was my chance. So I parked a block away from her apartment and waited. And sure enough, just after 7, she came out dressed like she was heading somewhere nice. A man's shadow followed behind her, tall, broad-shouldered, carrying himself with confidence. That's when my heart started to pound. I ducked down in my seat, praying she wouldn't spot me. She got into her car, he slid into the passenger side, and off they went. Without even thinking, I started the engine and followed. Now I'm not proud of this. I know it sounds invasive, maybe even desperate. But you have to understand, this wasn't just about curiosity. This was about survival. I felt like Helena had yanked a rug out from under my life, and unless I figured out what she was hiding, I'd never find my footing again. They drove across town, winding into the historic district, where cobblestone streets shimmered in the rain. They parked near a quiet Italian restaurant, one of those cozy candlelit places where couples linger for hours. I stayed far back, keeping my eyes locked on them as they walked toward the entrance. That's when it happened. He turned his head. Just for a second. Just enough for the streetlight to hit his face. And my entire body went cold. I knew him. Not in a casual, "Oh, I've seen him around" way. Not in a distant, "He looks familiar" way. No. I knew him intimately. Deeply. In a way Helena could never have imagined. And that's where I have to pause. Because what I'm about to reveal next will shake the ground beneath your feet, the way it did mine. But before I go further, if you're still with me, I need you to hit that like button right now. Drop a comment too. What would you have done in my place? Would you have followed your sister? Or would you have respected her boundaries, even if it meant being erased from her wedding? I want to hear from you. Because for me, in that moment, standing under the rain, heart hammering in my chest, I knew I couldn't turn back. And yet, as much as I wanted to storm into that restaurant and scream, I didn't. I stayed frozen on the sidewalk, watching through the glass as Helena laughed, as the man I knew leaned in close to her, as if nothing in the world was wrong. Every cell in my body screamed that this was wrong, that I had to do something. But fear held me hostage. Fear, and the terrible knowledge that if I spoke, I might lose Helena forever. And that, my friends, is where tonight's chapter ends. Because the face I saw, the man Helena was planning to marry, it wasn't just anyone. It was someone tied to my past in a way so painful, so shocking I couldn't breathe. I'll tell you exactly who he was in chapter 2. For now, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Share this story with someone who loves a good twist. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever uncovered a family secret so big it nearly broke you? Don't miss what comes next. Because trust me, this was only the beginning. Chapter 2. I stood there frozen, rain dripping down the back of my neck, staring through that restaurant window like I was watching a movie I didn't sign up for. My sister's fiancé, the man she wanted to spend the rest of her life with, wasn't a stranger. He wasn't some mystery businessman or a college sweetheart she'd kept hidden. No. He was Ethan Kane. The name alone still makes me shiver. Ethan wasn't just some man from my past. He was my ex. My worst heartbreak. The person who'd nearly destroyed me 3 years ago when I thought I'd finally found love. I hadn't seen him since the day he walked out of my life without explanation, leaving me in pieces, barely able to function. And now, here he was, sitting across from my sister, holding her hand, smiling like he'd never done a single thing wrong. For a second I thought I was hallucinating, that my eyes were playing tricks on me. But no, the sharp line of his jaw, the scar on his chin, the way his fingers curled around a wine glass. It was all burned into my memory, too familiar to mistake. I staggered back against the wall, my stomach twisting so hard I thought I'd be sick. My sister, my Helena, was engaged to my ex. Tell me, viewers, what would you have done right then? Would you have stormed inside, torn the whole thing apart, screamed the truth for the world to hear? Or would you have stayed quiet like I did, trembling in the shadows, trying to decide whether to expose him or protect her? Drop your answers in the comments because I still don't know if I made the right choice that night. I couldn't move. My chest was tight, my breath shallow, as if my own body was betraying me. My legs begged me to run, but my heart was chained to the ground. All I could think about were the memories. Ethan laughing in my apartment kitchen as we made pancakes on Sunday mornings. Ethan driving me to the emergency room when I broke my wrist. Ethan whispering promises late at night that turned out to be lies. The way he left me, cold, brutal, without a reason, still haunted me. I'd cried myself to sleep for months, asking why I wasn't enough. And now, here he was, sliding a plate of pasta across the table to my sister like they were already married. I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying to muffle the sob clawing its way out of my throat. My sister didn't know. She couldn't have known. If she did, she would have told me. Right. Or maybe that's why she kept me away. That thought pierced me like a knife. What if Helena knew exactly who he was? What if she'd chosen him anyway? I couldn't breathe. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would explode. And then, as if the universe wasn't already cruel enough, Ethan looked up. His eyes swept across the restaurant, casual, relaxed, until they landed on me. For a split second our eyes locked. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. His lips parted in shock. And I knew, he recognized me instantly. Panic. I turned on my heel, nearly tripping on the slick sidewalk, and bolted down the street. My shoes splashed through puddles, my breath coming out in ragged gasps. I didn't stop until I reached my car, fumbling with the keys, heart pounding so loudly I thought the whole block could hear. Once inside, I slammed the door shut, pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, and let the tears finally come. My body shook with sobs, the kind that rip through you like a storm, leaving you hollow and exhausted. How could this be happening? I wanted to call Helena right then, demand answers, scream until my voice broke. But I didn't. I sat there in silence, gripping the wheel, knowing that once I made that call, there would be no going back. Instead, I drove home in a daze. The city lights blurred past me, meaningless. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Helena's name lighting up the screen. I couldn't answer. I couldn't hear her voice, not when my chest was caving in with betrayal. That night, lying awake in the dark, I replayed every conversation we'd had over the past few months. Every excuse, every evasion. And suddenly it all made sense. She hadn't wanted me at the wedding because she knew. She knew Ethan was my ex. She knew the damage he'd done to me. And she chose him anyway. Or was there another explanation? That's the question that kept me up, staring at the ceiling. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe Ethan had erased me from his past the same way he'd erased me from his present. Maybe he never told her about me. The uncertainty gnawed at me, worse than the betrayal itself. I needed proof. And so began my quiet investigation. The next morning I called in sick to work. I spent hours scrolling through old emails, photos, anything that tied me to Ethan. It felt invasive, digging through the ashes of a fire I'd sworn I'd left behind. But I had to know. That's when I found it. An old folder buried in my laptop. E+M forever. Inside were hundreds of photos, text screenshots, even a plane ticket stub from a trip we'd taken together. Proof. Evidence. Things you couldn't fake or deny. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. I wasn't crazy. Ethan had been mine once. He had loved me, or at least pretended to. And now he was Helena's. The rage that filled me wasn't loud. It was quiet, simmering, steady. The kind of anger that doesn't explode but calcifies, hardens into something immovable. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. Not again. But how? How could I reveal the truth without destroying Helena in the process? That's where the idea of evidence came in. Quiet justice. If Ethan wanted to play games, I'd beat him with paper trails, receipts, the kind of truth you can't deny. Viewers, let me pause here and ask you. Have you ever kept old messages or photos, thinking they didn't matter anymore, only to realize later they were the only proof you had? Tell me in the comments if you've ever had that kind of saved receipt moment. Because let me tell you, those little scraps of the past can become powerful weapons when the time is right. For the next week, I lived like a detective. Every free moment was spent collecting and organizing evidence. I saved files to a flash drive, labeled folders, even wrote notes about dates and times. It wasn't just about proving Ethan had been with me. It was about building a timeline, story. And with every piece of evidence I uncovered, my resolve grew stronger. But then came the twist I didn't expect. Late one night, as I was sifting through photos, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Helena. It was Ethan. I hadn't heard his voice in years. Just seeing his name flash across the screen made my stomach churn. For a moment I couldn't answer. My hands shook too badly. But then I pressed accept, holding the phone to my ear with trembling fingers. "Marissa." His voice was low, urgent. "We need to talk." My throat went dry. "There's nothing to talk about," I whispered. "Yes, there is," he said quickly. "Please, meet me. Just once. I can explain." Explain. Explain what? How he'd walked out on me. How he'd wormed his way into my sister's life. I should have hung up. I should have blocked his number and walked away. But instead, against every ounce of my better judgment, I agreed. We met the next evening at a park halfway between our old neighborhood and Helena's apartment. I got there early, my heart hammering in my chest, scanning every face that walked by until finally he appeared. And when he sat down across from me, his eyes dark with secrets, I realized something chilling. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about survival. Because Ethan wasn't just hiding a broken heart. He was hiding something much bigger. Something dangerous. And that, my viewers, is where Chapter 2 ends. What do you think he's hiding? Drop your guesses in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because Chapter 3 will expose the first real crack in Ethan's mask. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Chapter 3. I sat on that cold park bench, every muscle in my body tense, watching Ethan walk toward me with the same confident stride that used to make me weak in the knees. Except now, it didn't look charming. It looked dangerous. Like he was a man carrying secrets in his pocket that could explode at any second. When he sat down across from me, I could smell his cologne, the same one he wore years ago. I hated that my chest clenched with memories, even now. I hated that part of me remembered what it felt like to be loved by him. Or at least what I thought was love. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low. "Marissa, I know what you saw. I know this looks bad. But please don't say anything to Helena. Not yet." The audacity. A sheer nerve. He wanted me to keep his secret. My hands clenched into fists on my lap. "You're engaged to my sister. You think I can just stay quiet?" He glanced around the park as if the trees were listening, then leaned closer. "If you tell her, you'll ruin everything. And not just for me. For her too. She has no idea what she's walking into." My breath hitched. "What do you mean?" His jaw tightened, and for a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "I'm not the man she thinks I am." Cold chill ran down my spine. He wasn't confessing to being my ex. He was confessing to something worse. "Then who are you?" I demanded. Ethan's eyes darted toward the playground across the field, where kids screamed on swings and parents laughed on benches. Then he whispered, "Someone who's made mistakes. Mistakes that don't just disappear. And if Helena marries me, those mistakes, they'll become hers too." I felt my stomach drop. "What mistakes?" "Press." He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled something from his pocket, a folded piece of paper, creased and worn. He slid it across the bench toward me. I stared at it like it might burn me. My fingers shook as I unfolded it. It was a court document, an arrest record. His name was right there at the top. Charges for fraud. Identity theft. The words blurred as I read them, my pulse roaring in my ears. Fraud. Identity theft. This man wasn't just a liar. He was a criminal. I looked up at him, heart pounding. "Helena doesn't know." He shook his head. "She thinks I had a business failure. That's all. I never told her about the case. About the conviction. I need you not to tell her either. At least, not yet." I stared at him in disbelief. He was asking me to lie to my sister. To protect him. "Why me?" I asked bitterly. "After everything you did to me, why would you even think I'd help you?" His gaze softened in a way that made me sick. "Because you still care. Can see it. And because you know what it's like to love me. You know how she'd look at me if she found out. You'd hate to see her broken like that." I wanted to slap him. I wanted to scream. But instead I sat there stunned because part of me knew he was right. Telling Helena the truth would shatter her. And wasn't that exactly what he'd done to me years ago? Viewers, let me ask you something. If you had proof your sister's fiancé was hiding a criminal past, would you expose him immediately, even if it destroyed her happiness? Or would you wait, gather more evidence, and risk him manipulating her deeper? I want you to really think about that. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is the crossroads I faced. I tucked the paper into my bag, my decision still unmade. I need time, I said finally. Ethan nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. That's all I ask. But as I walked away from that park, I promised myself something. Time wasn't for him. Time was for me. I was going to dig deeper. I was going to uncover every last secret he was hiding. And when the moment was right, I'd expose him. Not just to Helena, but to everyone. Quiet justice. That was the only way forward. The next few days I became obsessed. I researched public records, combed through old news articles, even contacted a legal aid office pretending to be a concerned citizen. The pieces started to form a puzzle, and what I saw terrified me. Ethan's fraud case wasn't small. It was part of a scheme. Fake businesses, stolen identities, elderly victims losing their savings. He'd cut a deal, served a reduced sentence, and walked free while others took the fall. And now he was walking straight into my sister's life, clean suit and polished smile, like nothing had ever happened. The betrayal burned deeper with every fact I uncovered. But here's the thing about digging too deep. You never know when the dirt starts burying you instead. Because one night around midnight I got a call. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. "Marissa," a low voice hissed on the other end. "Stop looking into Ethan. For your own good." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" I whispered. The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, phone pressed to my ear, heart racing. Someone knew. Someone was watching me. And in that moment I realized, this wasn't just about my sister's happiness anymore. This was about my safety. But I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when the truth was so close. So I made a choice. I would gather every piece of evidence I could. I would build a case stronger than any lie Ethan could tell. And when the time came, I'd drop it all in one devastating blow. Still, that warning call lingered in my mind. If someone out there was protecting Ethan, just how dangerous was the truth I was chasing? That night I sat at my desk, flash drive glowing in the dark, files open on my laptop, the weight of it all pressing down on me. And just when I thought I was ready to face whatever came next, there was a knock at my door. Froze. It was past 1 in the morning. Who would be at my door at this hour? I crept toward it, every nerve in my body screaming. When I peeked through the peephole, my stomach dropped. It wasn't Ethan. It was my sister, Helena. Her eyes were red, her cheeks streaked with tears. And when I opened the door, she whispered the words that made my blood run cold. "Marissa, I think Ethan's hiding something from me. And I need your help." And that, viewers, is where we leave chapter 3. Do you see how fast the web is tightening? Helena herself has started to doubt him. The question is, will she trust me with the truth before it's too late? Let me know in the comments what you'd do if your sister came to you like this. And don't forget, like this video, share it, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because chapter 4 is where the real storm begins. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Chapter 4. When I opened the door and saw Helena standing there, her face streaked with tears, I felt my stomach twist. My little sister, the one who had always been so sure of herself, looked small, fragile, broken. She pushed past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. Her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding in all the pieces threatening to fall apart. "Marissa," her voice cracked and she dropped onto my couch. "I think Ethan's hiding something from me. And I need your help." For a moment I couldn't breathe. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. But it wasn't how I imagined. I thought I'd have to fight her tooth and nail, drag her to the truth, watch her resist until the evidence crushed her. Instead, she was sitting in my living room, begging me to help her. I sat across from her, my heart hammering. "What makes you say that?" She rubbed her eyes with the back of her hand. "I don't know. He's different. Secretive. Sometimes he leaves his phone in the car when he comes inside. He changes the subject when I ask about his past. Tonight he got a call and stepped outside. When I tried to follow, he yelled at me. Ethan never yells at me, Marissa. Never. And when he came back in, He acted like nothing happened. I leaned forward. Helena. You know I've been trying to warn you. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp even through her tears. Don't start with "I told you so." Just tell me. Do you know something? I swallowed hard. This was it. The opening. The moment where I could shatter her illusion. But my hands trembled. How do you tell your sister that the man she's planning to marry isn't just hiding things? He's dangerous, manipulative, and has a past that could destroy her life. Helena. My voice shook. Yes, I know things, and you need to hear them. But you have to promise me something first. She blinked at me, confused. What? That you won't shut down. That you'll listen all the way before you decide anything. Her lip trembled, but she nodded. Okay, tell me. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folded court document Ethan had given me in the park. I handed it to her, watching as her eyes scanned the page. Her mouth fell open. This can't be real, she whispered. Fraud. Identity theft. He told me it was just a failed business. He never said. Her voice cracked and she shoved the paper back at me. This has to be fake. It's not, I said softly. I looked it up. It's public record. I can show you. She shook her head violently. No, he wouldn't do this. He wouldn't lie to me like that. He loves me. And there it was, the wall. The same wall I'd faced years ago, when I tried to convince myself that Ethan's lies were just misunderstandings, that he loved me enough to change. That wall nearly destroyed me. Helena, I said gently. He told me himself. He begged me not to tell you. He admitted it. Her face went pale. You talked to him. He nodded. I saw him at the park. He came to me. He knows I know. And he asked me to stay quiet. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she pressed her hands to her face. Oh my God. I wanted to hold her, comfort her, but another thought hit me. If Helena knew now, if she confronted Ethan too soon, she could be in danger. He wasn't just a liar. He was a man with a criminal past, maybe even current ties to people who didn't want the truth out. Helena, I whispered, leaning closer. You can't let him know you know. Not yet. She looked up at me, eyes wide with fear. Then what do? I took her hand. We gather everything. We build proof. When you walk away, you do it on your terms, with the truth in your hands. Not as his victim. She nodded slowly, like she wanted to believe me, like she wanted to be strong. But then she whispered, Marissa, what if I'm already too deep? What if it's too late? Her words cut through me because I didn't know the answer. Viewers, let me pause here and ask you, if someone you loved came to you like Helena just did, broken, doubting the person they trusted most, would you reveal everything at once or protect them until you had undeniable proof? Drop your thoughts below. I really want to know. Because in that moment, sitting on my couch with my sister crying into her hands, I wasn't sure if protecting her meant telling her everything, or telling her only enough to keep her cautious. The days that followed were a blur of secrets. Helena and I became partners in silence, exchanging whispered updates and hidden glances whenever Ethan wasn't around. She played the role of the perfect fiancé, smiling at dinners, laughing at his jokes, even kissing him goodnight. But behind closed doors, her eyes were filled with fear. We started digging together. Credit checks, old news clippings. We found whispers of Ethan's past everywhere we looked. Business partners who had vanished. Investors who had sued him. An elderly woman in Florida who had lost her retirement savings and claimed Ethan was the one who tricked her. Each discovery was like a knife in Helena's chest. She would stare at the screen, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. And every time I reminded her, this isn't your fault. This is who he is. Not who you are. But the deeper we dug, the more dangerous it felt. Strange cars parked outside Helena's house at night. A man in a suit loitering by her work. Anonymous emails warning us to stop. Then came the night everything changed. Helena called me in a panic. Marissa, he's acting weird. He left suddenly, said he had a meeting, but he left his laptop open. Should I look? My pulse spiked. Yes. Take pictures of everything. Fast. She sent me photo after photo. Emails, spreadsheets, contact lists. And then she froze. Marissa. Oh my God. There are messages here. To another woman. My stomach dropped. What kind of messages? Her voice broke. Romantic ones. He's telling her he loves her. That he's marrying her soon. Her name is Delaney. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Not only was Ethan a criminal, he was cheating on Helena with another woman, promising her the same future he promised my sister. "Get out of there," I whispered urgently. "Now. Take the laptop if you can, but get out before he comes back." Helena was sobbing. I can't breathe." I was already grabbing my keys, rushing out the door. "I'm coming." "They come. Just get out of the house." But then over the phone I heard it, the front door opening. Ethan's voice, casual, almost cheerful. "Helena. I'm home." Her sharp intake of breath nearly killed me. I screamed into the phone. "Helena, hide the laptop. Now." There was fumbling, footsteps, her breath ragged in the receiver. And then silence. "Helena!" shouted. No answer. "Helena!" Nothing. Just the dead sound of a call disconnected. And that, viewers, is where I have to leave you tonight. Helena is in the same house with a man we now know is lying, cheating, and dangerous. She has his laptop, she knows too much, and he just walked through the door. What would you do if you were her? Would you confront him, pretend nothing happened, or run while you still could? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed. Because Chapter 5 will change everything. Chapter 5. Helena's breathing was all I could hear in my head, even though the call had gone dead. My phone screen glowed back at me, mocking me with the silence. I pressed redial again and again, but it went straight to voicemail. My sister was in that house, trapped, and Ethan was there with her. I pressed harder on the gas pedal, weaving through traffic, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. My chest felt tight, every breath shallow. Please God, let her be okay. Please let her have hidden the laptop. Please let him not have noticed. Meanwhile, in my mind, I pictured Helena's wide eyes as the door creaked open. I could see Ethan's smile, casual, almost sweet, masking whatever storm was boiling beneath. That was the kind of man he was. Smooth, practiced, dangerous in his calm. When I finally pulled up outside Helena's house, every light in the place was on. It looked almost too bright, like a stage where a play was unfolding inside. I killed the engine and sat in silence for a beat, my heart thundering. Do I barge in? Do I call the police? Do I wait? But then the front curtain shifted, just slightly, and I saw Helena's face. Ill. Terrified. She mouthed one word to me, help. I didn't think. Ran. Inside, the air felt heavy, tense. Ethan was standing in the kitchen, leaning casually against the counter, a drink in his hand like nothing was wrong. Helena was on the couch, her hands folded too tightly in her lap. The laptop was gone, hidden. I prayed. Well, Ethan said smoothly, his eyes cutting toward me. What a surprise. Both sisters under one roof. Almost like old times. His calm tone sent chills down my spine. He knew. He had to know. I was just checking on Helena, I said, forcing my voice steady. She sounded upset. Ethan chuckled softly, sipping his drink. You know how women are. Emotional. Overreacting. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Helena's jaw clenched, but she didn't answer. That's when I saw it, the faint red mark on her wrist, like he'd grabbed her too hard. Rage flared in my chest, but I swallowed it down. If I exploded now, it would only put her in more danger. Instead, I forced a smile. Well, since I'm here, why don't we all sit down and talk? Like family. His eyes narrowed slightly, searching my face, but then he shrugged. Sure. Why not? We sat, the three of us, the tension thick enough to choke on. I could feel Helena trembling beside me. Ethan leaned back, completely relaxed, as if he was the one in control. Maybe he thought he still was. So, he said smoothly. Marissa, you've been spending a lot of time around here lately. Digging into old news, asking questions. Should I be worried? My heart skipped, but I met his gaze. Not unless you've got something to hide. He laughed, low and amused, but there was steel in his eyes. See, that's the thing about the past. People love to twist it, don't they? Take a mistake, blow it out of proportion, call it something it's not. Helena flinched, but I held firm. Some mistakes ruin lives, Ethan. That's not exaggeration. That's truth. For the first time, his smile faltered. Just for a second, but I caught it. And that's when Helena surprised me. She sat up straighter, her voice shaking but strong. Ethan, if there's something you haven't told me, now's the time. Because if I find out later, it'll be worse. Much worse. His eyes flicked to her, sharp, calculating. For a long moment, no one breathed. Finally, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His voice dropped lower, colder. You don't want to know everything, Helena. Trust me. Some things are better left buried. And then he stood, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain shut with a snap. That sound rattled through me. He wasn't just hiding lies, he was warning us. Viewers, let me ask you right here. If you were in Helena's place, hearing the man you love hint that there are dark secrets he refuses to reveal, would you push him to confess, or would you run before you ever found out? Drop your thoughts below because this is where things started to spiral. That night ended without an explosion, but the silence afterward was worse than a fight. Ethan retreated to the bedroom, muttering about needing rest. Helena and I sat frozen on the couch, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. When he finally closed the door, Helena grabbed my hand. "The laptop," she whispered. I hid it under the couch cushion. I exhaled shakily, relief flooding me. We had it. Proof. But now came the dangerous part. Getting it out of the house without him noticing. I stayed with her until nearly dawn, pretending to fall asleep on the couch. When Ethan left early for a meeting, I slid the laptop into my bag and hugged Helena tightly. "Stay calm. Don't change anything yet. I'll take care of this." She nodded, her face pale, but there was fire in her eyes now too. She wasn't broken anymore. She was ready to fight. The next few days became a blur of decoding Ethan's files. I pored through spreadsheets, emails, encrypted folders. What I found made my blood run cold. Shell companies, fake identities, offshore accounts. This wasn't just petty fraud. This was organized. Bigger than I imagined. And then, buried in one email thread, a photo attachment. I opened it and my heart stopped. It was me. A picture of me at the park the day I met Ethan. Taken from across the street. He wasn't just watching Helena. He was watching me too. The realization made my skin crawl. This wasn't just about Helena. This wasn't just about their relationship. He was playing a bigger game. And somehow I was part of it. I called Helena immediately, my voice trembling. "You need to get out. Right now. He's not just lying to you. He's tracking me too." But before she could answer, I heard the front door slam on her end of the line. A deep voice, cold and sharp. "Who are you talking to?" Then the call cut off. Viewers, I don't know how many of you have ever felt that kind of fear. That moment when someone you love is on the other end of the line and suddenly silence. But I swear to you, in that moment I felt like my entire world cracked in half. I jumped in my car, racing to Helena's house. Every second felt like an hour. And when I pulled up, the driveway was empty. No car. No sign of Ethan. No sign of Helena. The house was dark. Too dark. I ran to the door, pounding, calling her name. No answer. I tried the handle, it was locked. But through the window, I saw the overturned lamp, the shattered glass on the floor. My heart pounded in my throat. Helena was gone. And so was Ethan. Chapter 6. The house was too quiet. That kind of quiet that doesn't just sit in the air. It presses down on you, choking you, warning you that something terrible has already happened. The lamp was on the floor, the glass shards glinting in the faint moonlight sneaking through the blinds. My hands shook as I tried the doorknob again. The sound of my pounding echoed down the empty street, but no one came. Nobody ever comes in moments like these. I smashed the glass with my elbow, ignoring the sting, and reached inside to unlock it. The door swung open, and the smell hit me first. Wine spilled somewhere, sharp and sour. Papers scattered on the floor like someone had been searching for something in a hurry. And then, silence. "Helena!" My voice cracked as it echoed through the empty house. Nothing. I ran from room to room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. Sheets pulled halfway off the bed. A drawer open. Her shoes by the door. But she wasn't there. That was when I noticed it. A single sticky note left on the counter. My name written in her handwriting, shaky, rushed. "Don't look for me. Please." My stomach dropped. I knew those words weren't hers, they were his. He made her write it. Viewers, imagine this. Your sister, your best friend, the person who has been your only anchor through every storm, suddenly gone. And the only trace of her is a note that screams of someone else's control. What would you do? Would you obey the words and back away? Or would you risk everything to dig deeper? Let me know in the comments, because right then I knew I wasn't stopping. I grabbed the note, folded it into my pocket, and started searching. Every drawer, every folder, every little hiding place she might have used. And then I found it, the couch cushion. She had hidden something else. Not the laptop, thank God I already had that, but a tiny flash drive taped to the inside seam. Hands trembling, I shoved it into my pocket. Proof. Maybe her insurance policy. I grabbed the note, folded it into my pocket, and started searching. Every drawer, every folder, every little hiding place she might have used. And then I found it, the couch cushion. She had hidden something else. Not the laptop, thank God I already had that, but a tiny flash drive taped to the inside seam. Hands trembling, I shoved it into my pocket. Proof. Maybe her insurance policy. The sound of footsteps outside froze me. I killed the lights, pressed myself against the wall. Car door slammed. Tires screeched. I ran to the window, just in time to see Ethan's car speeding down the road. My gut twisted. Helena was with him. I couldn't see her, but I knew. And then I noticed something else. Second car followed close behind. Black tinted windows. Not his. That's when I realized. This wasn't just about Helena. This was bigger. I spent the next hours combing through the laptop and the flash drive. The files painted a horrifying picture. Bank transfers tied to shell charities, receipts for nursing homes, consulting fees paid out of retirement accounts. He wasn't just a liar. He was stealing from caretakers, elders, the people least able to fight back. And Helena, sweet, trusting Helena, was about to be paraded as his respectable partner, the cover that made him look clean. The worst part. Some of the documents had timestamps, recent ones. Metadata showing edits made within hours of me pulling that laptop. Meaning, Ethan wasn't just reckless. He was tracking what I knew. He wanted me to see enough to be afraid, but not enough to stop him. That night sleep was impossible. Every sound outside made me jump. Every car that slowed near my street had me clutching the laptop bag tighter. Around 3 a.m. I got an email. No subject line. No sender I recognized. Just one sentence. You're in over your head. Stop digging or you'll end up erased too. The attached file was a picture of my own house. Taken that night. My hands went cold on the keyboard. He knew where I was. He wanted me to feel hunted. And it was working. Still, fear didn't stop me. Fueled me. I drove to a motel 3 towns over, checked in under a fake name and plugged the flash drive back in. That's when I noticed one folder marked simply H. Click. Inside were dozens of photos of Helena. Some recent, some from years ago. Her at college. Her at work. Her sleeping on the couch, clearly taken without her knowing. But mixed in were photos of someone else. Me. That's when it hit me like ice water. I wasn't just collateral. I was part of his plan. The next day I brought everything, the laptop, the flash drive, the photos, to a legal aid office downtown. They paired me with a quiet, sharp-eyed attorney named Laurel. She didn't flinch when I showed her the files. She didn't doubt me. She just nodded, took notes, and said the words that gave me my first sliver of hope. We can freeze his accounts. Not for long, but long enough to force him into the light. It was the first step of quiet justice. Paper trails, not fists. But here's where things turned. Laurel warned me that once we filed, Ethan would know. He'd realize someone on the inside had betrayed him. And Helena, she'd be caught in the crossfire. The dilemma tore at me. Save Helena quietly, or strike legally and risk everything. That evening I made my choice. I signed the paperwork. The freeze went through the next morning. By noon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Congratulations. You've just declared war. Attached was a photo. Helena, blindfolded. A hand gripping her arm too tightly. Viewers, I don't even have words for the way my stomach twisted when I saw that image. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was personal. This was control. This was revenge. And right there, staring at that photo, I knew one thing for sure. Ethan had underestimated me. He thought fear would keep me quiet. He thought the threat of losing Helena would break me. But he was wrong. Because fear doesn't silence me. Sharpens me. And if Ethan wanted a war, he was about to get one. Chapter 7. The letter arrived on a Wednesday morning, folded neatly inside a cream-colored envelope that looked harmless, almost elegant. My hands shook as I pulled it from the mailbox, the ink of my name written in a sharp, deliberate script that I recognized instantly. It was Ethan's lawyer. I didn't even need to open it to know. It carried the kind of weight that stops your breath mid-sentence, the kind of envelope that signals war. Inside was exactly what I feared. A motion filed in court, accusing me of interference, defamation, and harassment. Every line dripped with venom, each word carefully chosen to paint me as a bitter, unstable woman clinging to something that wasn't mine. He claimed I was trying to destroy his reputation. He even went so far as to call me a danger to my own family's peace. Reading it, I felt like someone had taken my life, twisted it into something unrecognizable, and held it up to the world as proof of my insanity. For a moment, I just stood in my kitchen, the letter trembling in my hands, while the hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. I had known Ethan wouldn't stay quiet after the freeze order on the accounts, but I hadn't expected him to strike back this hard, this fast. He wasn't just defending himself. He was trying to bury me. And yet here's the strange thing. Instead of breaking me down, it woke something fierce inside of me. That quiet fire that had carried me through months of being overlooked, dismissed, and erased. It roared to life. If Ethan wanted a war, then he would get one. But not the kind he expected. Before I go on, let me pause and ask you. Have you ever had someone rewrite your story in a way that made you unrecognizable, as if you were a villain in your own life? If so, type yes in the comments. And hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. I folded the letter, smoothed its edges with deliberate calm, and placed it into a binder I'd started calling the Book of Truth. Inside, I kept copies of every document, every email, every shred of proof that showed Ethan's deception. My binder had grown fat, its plastic sleeves filled with receipts, drafts, metadata printouts, and even handwritten notes that I refused to throw away. Each page wasn't just paper. It was a piece of myself, the life Ethan had tried to erase. Called Cass immediately. Her voice came through the phone, steady but tinged with anger. "This is classic intimidation," she said. "They want you to feel cornered so you'll back down. But you have evidence. You're not defenseless." We met with her legal contact, a retired attorney named Mr. Alden, who specialized in cases involving family trusts and contested estates. He had silver hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of presence that filled a room without raising his voice. After listening to me read aloud Ethan's claims, he leaned back in his chair, tapped the edge of the letter and said, "He's overplaying his hand. When people get desperate, they reach too far. That's where we'll catch him." It sounded encouraging, but I couldn't shake the fear gnawing at me. Ethan was polished, powerful, and deeply connected. He knew how to twist perception, how to turn truth into a weapon. And now he was dragging me into the public stage, a courtroom where reputation mattered as much as facts. The hearing was set for the following week. My stomach twisted every time I thought about standing there, about facing him in front of strangers. But Cass and Mr. Alden were relentless. They walked me through every possible question, every angle Ethan's lawyer might attack from. And more importantly, they kept reminding me of one crucial fact. I wasn't just defending myself. I was defending the truth. The day of the hearing arrived. I wore a plain navy dress, nothing flashy, nothing that could be used against me. Cass was by my side, her hand squeezing mine as we walked into the courthouse. The air smelled faintly of old wood and polished floors, and the sound of heels clicking echoed off the walls like distant gunfire. When Ethan entered, my chest tightened. He looked the same as always, immaculately dressed, a calm smile plastered across his face, the kind of smile that told everyone in the room, "I'm in control." But I noticed the tightness in his jaw, the way his eyes flickered when he saw Cass and Mr. Alden flanking me. For the first time, maybe he realized I wasn't standing alone anymore. The hearing itself was surreal. His lawyer spoke with theatrical precision, painting me as obsessive, unstable, vindictive. Every word felt like a dagger. I wanted to scream, to interrupt, to tell the judge that it was all lies. But Cass had prepared me for this moment. "They come. Let the evidence speak." When it was our turn, Mr. Alden rose slowly, his voice low but firm. He didn't waste words. Instead, he presented a timeline, emails, documents, receipts, all pointing to Ethan's quiet manipulation and financial deceit. Then came the turning point. Cass introduced metadata from a draft Ethan had altered, showing timestamps that proved his version of events couldn't possibly be true. The courtroom went silent. I watched Ethan's face as he realized what had just been revealed. His smile faltered just slightly, but enough for me to see it. For the first time, the mask slipped. Still, the judge didn't make a final ruling. He issued a temporary order. The freeze would remain in place, and both parties were to refrain from making further financial moves until more evidence could be reviewed. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was a shield. Chance to breathe. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter. Not free, not safe, but steady. The war wasn't over, but I had survived the first battle. And in surviving, I had shown Ethan something he hadn't expected. I wasn't going away. But that small sense of relief didn't last long. 2 nights later, a new envelope arrived at my door. This one wasn't from his lawyer. It was handwritten, slipped under my door while I was asleep. No return address, no postage. Just a single sheet of paper with 6 words scrawled across it in bold black ink. You don't know what's coming. My heart froze as I read it. And that's where I'll leave you for now. What do you think Ethan is planning next? Drop your theories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens in Chapter 8. Chapter 8. I couldn't sleep after finding that note. Those 6 words, "You don't know what's coming," echoed in my head like a drumbeat. I locked every window, checked the doors twice, even pushed a chair against the back door like I was living in some cheap thriller. And still, when I finally collapsed into bed, I left the lamp on, too scared of the shadows that pooled in the corners of my room. The next morning I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just some cruel prank, maybe Ethan hadn't even sent it. But deep down I knew. The handwriting was his. The smug, sharp angles of the letters. I'd seen them too many times on contracts and sticky notes left on the fridge back when he was pretending to be the perfect partner. What terrified me most wasn't the threat itself. It was the fact that he'd been close enough to slide it under my door while I slept. That meant he knew where I was. That meant he was watching. Have you ever felt that cold shiver, that sense that someone is standing just beyond your sightline, waiting for you to slip? If you have, leave a comment and tell me. You're not alone. I called Cass, my voice shaking, and told her about the note. She didn't hesitate. We're documenting this. Every detail. Take a picture of it, save the original, and don't throw anything away. This isn't just intimidation, it's harassment. We met that afternoon at a cafe, one of those small places with chipped mugs and a bell over the door. I slid the note across the table like it was radioactive. Cass scanned it, then folded it carefully into a plastic sleeve she pulled from her bag. "He's slipping," she said. "This is reckless. And reckless means sloppy. That's how we'll catch him." Her calm confidence steadied me, but the fear lingered. I noticed people watching me more closely than usual. The man at the next table who seemed to be scrolling his phone without ever actually scrolling. The car parked across from my apartment with tinted windows that hadn't moved in 2 days. Was I being paranoid? Or was Ethan tightening his net around me? That night, the paranoia turned into reality. I was sitting by the window, binder open in my lap, when headlights flashed outside. Car slowed, then stopped right in front of my building. My pulse quickened. The engine idled, then turned off. But nobody got out. I sat frozen, every muscle locked. Minutes passed. 15. Then suddenly the headlights flicked back on and the car pulled away. No explanation. No reason. Just enough to leave me rattled. Why me? I whispered into the empty room. Why is he doing this? But of course I knew the answer. Because I was standing in his way. Because I had seen behind his mask and lived to tell about it. Still, in the middle of that fear, something unexpected happened. As I flipped through my binder, double-checking the pages for the 100th time, I noticed something I hadn't before. A discrepancy in one of Ethan's financial reports. A date that didn't line up. A signature on a check that looked off. I pulled out another document, compared the two, and my breath caught. It wasn't just sloppy bookkeeping. It was forgery. If I could prove this, it wouldn't just be about freezing accounts or holding the line. It could be the nail in his coffin, the thing that showed everyone exactly who he was. But just as that spark of hope flickered, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. No words this time. Just a picture. It was me. Taken from outside my window. Sitting in that exact chair, binder in my lap. My blood turned to ice. He wasn't just watching from a distance. He was right there. Close enough to see me through the glass. And that's where I'll leave you for now. If you were in my shoes, would you go to the police immediately, or keep gathering proof in silence? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because in Chapter 9, the story takes a turn you will not see coming. Chapter 9. The room was humming with voices and clinking glasses when I walked in. It wasn't just any gathering. It was the charity gala Ethan had been bragging about for months. His chance to play the philanthropist, to show the world how benevolent he was. I could smell expensive perfume and polished wood. Hear the low drone of polite laughter. Underneath it all, my heart was pounding so loud I thought someone might hear. I'd been planning for this night for weeks with Cass and Owen. Every document, every timestamp, every digital breadcrumb we'd collected was now a neat package sitting on a thumb drive in my purse. We weren't just going to freeze Ethan's accounts. We were going to show the room who he really was. As I stood near the edge of the crowd, I could see him across the hall. Ethan, in his tailored suit, smiling that politician's smile, shaking hands with donors and judges and people who could make or break reputations with a whisper. He had no idea what was coming. I tightened my grip on my glass of water, trying to calm the tremor in my hands. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. But I couldn't stop thinking about that picture he'd sent me, the one taken outside my window. He knew I'd been building a case. He knew something was coming. Would he see it on my face? Could he smell my fear? I know a lot of you watching right now have been in rooms like this. Rooms where someone who's hurt you is smiling like nothing happened, while you carry the weight of the truth alone. If that's you, leave a comment below. Tell me your story. We're in this together. Cass slipped in behind me, her dark hair pulled into a low bun. Her expression calm but eyes blazing. "It's time," she whispered. "Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is." "Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story," I said softly, half to myself, half to the invisible audience in my mind that had carried me through these months of silence. Owen gave me a small nod from across the room, the signal. I moved toward the podium like my feet were floating. "Good evening," Ethan's voice rang out, smooth and practiced. "Thank you for being here to support a cause that means so much to me." I could hardly hear the rest. My fingers closed around the drive in my purse. In less than 5 minutes, the projector would flicker on and the room would see exactly what he'd done. The forged checks, the stolen funds, the harassment. It would all be there, impossible to spin. As the lights dimmed for his slideshow, Cass slid into the AV booth. She exchanged the files without anyone noticing. Ethan's smiling face filled the screen for a moment. Then it disappeared. A hush fell over the room as document after document began to appear. Not his speech, not his charity numbers. Screenshots of bank transfers. Copies of forged signatures. Photos of him meeting with shadowy consultants in private clubs. Murmurs spread through the crowd like a wave. Someone gasped. A judge in the front row frowned and whispered to her colleague. Ethan's head snapped toward the screen, then to me. I watched his face pale. That smile vanished. He stepped away from the podium, eyes darting, looking for the exit. But Owen was already there, casually leaning against the door, blocking his way. "Who did this?" Ethan hissed, his voice low but sharp. "I didn't do anything you didn't do to yourself," I said, keeping my tone even. "Turn it off," he barked at the AV team. But Cass had locked the controls. The slides kept playing. Each new image felt like a stone lifted from my chest. Months of doubt and fear melting away, replaced by a quiet vindication. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. Everyone could see it now. People began to move away from Ethan. The donors, the judges, the insiders. They all started to back off, murmuring, shaking their heads. His power was dissolving right in front of him. He lunged toward me, his eyes wild. "You don't know what you've done," he snarled. "I know exactly what I've done," I said. And then silence. All eyes turned to the back of the room where 2 plainclothes officers stepped in. Cass had tipped them off earlier. They didn't arrest Ethan, not yet, but they handed him a notice. A legal hold. He tried to laugh it off, but his hands were trembling. As the officers left, the projector flickered once more and shut down. The room buzzed with whispers. I should have felt triumphant. But in that moment, as Ethan stared at me with a look I'd never seen before, something darker than rage, colder than hate, I felt a new chill settle over me. Because I realized this wasn't over. Not yet. He leaned in close enough for only me to hear. "You think you've won," he whispered. "You haven't even seen the real game." And then he walked out, leaving me standing in the center of the room, everyone watching, my heart pounding with both victory and dread. If you were me, what would you do now? Walk away and hope it's done? Or push even harder, knowing what's at stake? Tell me in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because in Chapter 10, the final twist will change everything you thought you knew about this story. Chapter 10. When Ethan whispered those words, "You haven't even seen the real game," I didn't sleep that night. His voice replayed in my head like a broken record. I had won the crowd, I had exposed him, but he wasn't done. I knew men like him didn't just disappear. They regroup. They retaliated. The next morning, I opened my door to find an envelope on the welcome mat. No stamp, no address, just my name scrawled across the front. My stomach twisted as I picked it up. Inside were copies of my own emails, private emails, mixed with photos of me and my sister, smiling years ago before all of this. At the bottom was a handwritten note. You can't protect her. In that moment, I felt a cold wave wash over me. He wasn't just going after me anymore. He was reaching for the one person left in my family who still trusted me. I know many of you watching right now understand that fear. The fear that someone powerful might try to hurt the people you love just to get back at you. If you do, leave a comment. Let others know they're not alone. For hours, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the papers, torn between rage and dread. That's when Owen called. His voice was steady, reassuring. We've got enough to corner him, he said. But you have to decide. Do you want to drag this through court for years, or force him to fold now? My mind was spinning. Court would mean headlines, cross-examinations, every painful detail out in the open. For a moment I wanted it. I wanted the whole world to see him destroyed. But then I thought about my sister. About the life I wanted after this. About peace. That night I met Ethan one last time. A mediator sat between us, papers on the table. His jaw was tight, his eyes full of venom, but his signature was shaky when he finally pressed the pen to the page. He agreed to the settlement, agreed to walk away, agreed to stop. I should have felt victorious. But looking at him across that table, I realized something important. Revenge wasn't what I wanted anymore. What I wanted was freedom. From him, from the fear, from the years he had stolen. Still, as I slid the papers toward me, he leaned in one last time. His lips barely moved, but I heard the words clear as day. This isn't over. Froze. Part of me wanted to laugh, part of me wanted to scream. Instead I stood, folded the papers, and walked out. My heels clicked against the marble floor like a metronome of finality. When I stepped into the night air, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Quiet relief. For the first time, the weight wasn't on my chest anymore. I had chosen myself. I had chosen my future. And that's the moral I want you to take from this. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's not the fiery courtroom showdown or the dramatic arrest. Sometimes it's the quiet courage to face the person who tried to erase you and say, you didn't win. So let me ask you, viewers, if you were in my shoes, would you have taken the settlement, or dragged Ethan through court until the bitter end? Drop your answer in the comments below. Your voice matters here. I walked away that night not as the broken woman he tried to turn me into, but as someone who had reclaimed her story. And yet, even now, there are nights I hear his words echoing in the dark. This isn't over. Who knows? Maybe it isn't. But that's another story. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it, because the next story I'm sharing will shake you even more. And if you've been through something like this, tell us your story in the comments. You never know who you might inspire. I know a lot of you watching right now have been in rooms like this. Rooms where someone who's hurt you is smiling like nothing happened, while you carry the weight of the truth alone. If that's you, leave a comment below. Tell me your story. We're in this together. Cass slipped in behind me, her dark hair pulled into a low bun. Her expression calm but eyes blazing. It's time, she whispered. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story, I said softly, half to myself, half to the invisible audience in my mind that had carried me through these months of silence. Owen gave me a small nod from across the room, the signal. I moved toward the podium like my feet were floating. Good evening, Ethan's voice rang out, smooth and practiced. Thank you for being here to support a cause that means so much to me. I could hardly hear the rest. My fingers closed around the drive in my purse. In less than 5 minutes, the projector would flicker on and the room would see exactly what he'd done. The forged checks, the stolen funds, the harassment. It would all be there, impossible to spin. As the lights dimmed for his slideshow, Cass slid into the AV booth. She exchanged the files without anyone noticing. Ethan's smiling face filled the screen for a moment. Then it disappeared. A hush fell over the room as document after document began to appear. Not his speech, not his charity numbers. Screenshots of bank transfers. Copies of forged signatures. Photos of him meeting with shadowy consultants in private clubs. Murmurs spread through the crowd like a wave. Someone gasped. A judge in the front row frowned and whispered to her colleague. Ethan's head snapped toward the screen, then to me. I watched his face pale. That smile vanished. He stepped away from the podium, eyes darting, looking for the exit. But Owen was already there, casually leaning against the door, blocking his way. "Who did this?" Ethan hissed, his voice low but sharp. "I didn't do anything you didn't do to yourself," I said, keeping my tone even. "Turn it off," he barked at the AV team. But Cass had locked the controls. The slides kept playing. Each new image felt like a stone lifted from my chest. Months of doubt and fear melting away, replaced by a quiet vindication. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. Everyone could see it now. People began to move away from Ethan. The donors, the judges, the insiders. They all started to back off, murmuring, shaking their heads. His power was dissolving right in front of him. He lunged toward me, his eyes wild. "You don't know what you've done," he snarled. "I know exactly what I've done," I said. And then silence. All eyes turned to the back of the room where two plainclothes officers stepped in. Cass had tipped them off earlier. They didn't arrest Ethan, not yet, but they handed him a notice. A legal hold. He tried to laugh it off, but his hands were trembling. As the officers left, the projector flickered once more and shut down. The room buzzed with whispers. I should have felt triumphant. But in that moment, as Ethan stared at me with a look I'd never seen before, something darker than rage, colder than hate, I felt a new chill settle over me. Because I realized this wasn't over. Not yet. He leaned in close enough for only me to hear. "You think you've won," he whispered. "You haven't even seen the real game." And then he walked out, leaving me standing in the center of the room, everyone watching, my heart pounding with both victory and dread. If you were me, what would you do now? Walk away and hope it's done? Or push even harder, knowing what's at stake? Tell me in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because in Chapter 10, the final twist will change everything you thought you knew about this story. Chapter 10. When Ethan whispered those words, "You haven't even seen the real game," I didn't sleep that night. His voice replayed in my head like a broken record. I had won the crowd, I had exposed him, but he wasn't done. I knew men like him didn't just disappear. They regrouped. They retaliated. The next morning, I opened my door to find an envelope on the welcome mat. No stamp, no address, just my name scrawled across the front. My stomach twisted as I picked it up. Inside were copies of my own emails, private emails, mixed with photos of me and my sister, smiling years ago before all of this. At the bottom was a handwritten note. "You can't protect her." In that moment, I felt a cold wave wash over me. He wasn't just going after me anymore. He was reaching for the one person left in my family who still trusted me. I know many of you watching right now understand that fear. The fear that someone powerful might try to hurt the people you love just to get back at you. If you do, leave a comment. Let others know they're not alone. For hours, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the papers, torn between rage and dread. That's when Owen called. His voice was steady, reassuring. "We've got enough to corner him," he said. "But you have to decide. Do you want to drag this through court for years, or force him to fold now?" My mind was spinning. Court would mean headlines, cross-examinations, every painful detail out in the open. For a moment I wanted it. I wanted the whole world to see him destroyed. But then I thought about my sister. About the life I wanted after this. About peace. That night I met Ethan one last time. A mediator sat between us, papers on the table. His jaw was tight. His eyes full of venom, but his signature was shaky when he finally pressed the pen to the page. He agreed to the settlement. Agreed to walk away. agreed to stop. I should have felt victorious. But looking at him across that table, I realized something important. Revenge wasn't what I wanted anymore. What I wanted was freedom. From him, from the fear, from the years he had stolen. Still, as I slid the papers toward me, he leaned in one last time. His lips barely moved, but I heard the words clear as day. "This isn't over." Froze. Part of me wanted to laugh, part of me wanted to scream. Instead, I stood, folded the papers, and walked out. My heels clicked against the marble floor like a metronome of finality. When I stepped into the night air, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Quiet relief. For the first time, the weight wasn't on my chest anymore. I had chosen myself. I had chosen my future. And that's the moral I want you to take from this. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's not the fiery courtroom showdown or the dramatic arrest. Sometimes it's the quiet courage to face the person who tried to erase you and say, "You didn't win." So let me ask you, viewers, if you were in my shoes, would you have taken the settlement or dragged Ethan through court until the bitter end? Drop your answer in the comments below. Your voice matters here. I walked away that night not as the broken woman he tried to turn me into, but as someone who had reclaimed her story. And yet, even now, there are nights I hear his words echoing in the dark. This isn't over. Who knows? Maybe it isn't. But that's another story. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it, because the next story I'm sharing will shake you even more. And if you've been through something like this, tell us your story in the comments. You never know who you might inspire.